validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
All right, how y'all doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. Whew. Saturday, that's where we are right now. All right, y'all. I'm trying to figure some stuff out. Okay, so 15 minutes after when I said we was gonna start, but that's okay. We still here. We 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 go live 7 nights a week, and we do not let the sun rise without going live. But we don't always start on time, and that's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe, and then um hit those notification buttons so that you are here the moment that we do go live. Mhm. Now, we've had a couple of things that I've tiptoed across that I think if I do it in a collective, I can probably do some like three subtopics for this coming Monday. But we found first, I thought this was very interesting, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more in detail. The theatrical um issues that we had before, talked about last Monday and the Monday before that. They signed a memorandum for the ceasefire, but they did not actually finalize an actual plan. Okay. So for the next 60 days of ceasefire, which is not guaranteed, they will negotiate how they're going to do what they do. And in the meantime, they are going to open up the strait and everything goes back to normal. And ultimately, if they can spend 60 days, you're looking at we're in June, 60 days, we're looking at August, late August, early September, and we will hear a finalization update as to what exactly is going to be in the new agreement that wasn't in the last agreement, right? Now, beyond that, Donald Trump got himself a plane that was gifted to him from another country. We only had some tax dollars go into it to modify it for Secret Service use, and that modifications was made with tax dollars. But he's identifying it as a presidential plane, and allegedly it'll get thrown into his uh, presidential library. But if you if you work for a company and you get a car on behalf of the company and put it into the company's library, couldn't you still go back to the library and borrow that item back after you no longer are there as an active employee? So I'm going to be doing some research and finding out about that. But there's some conspicuous concerns about that particular situation, but it's a $400 million plane. So we're going to be talking about that. And there are some financial laws that have changed. And I'm going to be talking about that as well. Not a lot of them, just financial transparency laws. But the financial transparency laws are going to be red flags for your investment opportunities, specifically revolving around cash upfront, non-mortgaged investment opportunities. So we're going to be talking about that on Monday as well, because while we're live 7 nights a week, we cover different topics every night of the week. Where Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is business and politics. Monday, we talk about how politics negatively impacts your ability to make and save money. Since they just passed laws like places like California and Texas, where your $200 transactions are now being mandatorily fraud alert reported to the IRS. They're micromanaging your money. Um, Everything else is going to be monitored normally, but frequent small transactions that's looking like trying to skirt the situation be reported to the IRS, where you up to $10,000, but if you did four $2,500 transactions in less than a month, they're likely going to report that as $10,000 over the last 30 days. You've got to you've got to work it out in a way where it's considered normal transactions. So like I don't know, $2,400 a week every week, like a weekly paycheck kind of thing. It's less likely to look like a conspicuous transaction if it's going from one entity to the exact same entity on a regular basis. But you have people only think about with that one fraud transactions as far as your money going out, but it's also money going in. So if you get $10,000 in a month from the same source, or if you're getting a large quantity of money as an individual, not as a business, from a large quantity of locations, you could potentially have that as an issue that gets reported as well. And then when tax time comes, your tax documents have to match that money that's being circulated around. Otherwise, your ass gets audited. So we're going to be talking about these things, but one of the biggest things that I found out about just recently was about the real estate thing, where apparently if you're buying houses and real estate cash up front, no mortgage, no down payment with monthly payments or whatever the case may be, cash up front, whether you're buying it for yourself or you're buying it under a trust or anything to that effect, they are now going to go all the way down to the actual human being beneficiary of, even if you got 30 trusts and 5 businesses involved, somewhere in there, they're going to find a human being that owns that purchased in cash situation to eliminate the anonymity of the individuals, the anonymousness of the individuals, where they're not going to be able to just have on the books that a cash transaction happened from a paper document. It's not going to be that way anymore. But that's only going to be on non mortgaged items. Now, how do you get past that? Well, probably if you're going to be buying things under the trust, if you're going to be buying things under the LLC or whatever, and you don't want to be cash documented, you're probably going to have to put your money down on the property, start up a mortgage, and then let that mortgage sit for 30 days or 60 days or whatever, and then pay the damn mortgage off. Pay the mortgage off after 90 days or something like that. 7 months, something like that. It might slow down your processes to make sure that your money is not being tracked as well. Special shout out to OG Kicks. He says, or you can gift money as long as the gifter pays the taxes. So this is about hiding your identity. Yes, you can gift money to other people, but if you gift a large quantity of money to other people, we're talking about fraud alerts, embezzlements. We're talking about like money laundering. So they have new laws about cash transactions that is being reported now. So yeah, if you gift somebody money, a lot of the time small gifts like a $50, $75, $150 gift card or cash or something like that. Nobody really reports that on their taxes. Nobody really reports that to their banks. When you get $200 in tips from your job and then you deposit it into your bank doesn't ask you where you got the money from. They don't do fraud alerts on stuff like that. But um, if somebody gave you a car, the monetary value of that car, that's a gift tax, right? Somebody gives you a house, the monetary value of that house, that's a gift tax. If somebody gives you a briefcase full of cash and you deposit that briefcase full of cash all at once into your bank account, you have to disclose with the bank where you got it from. And as soon as you identify it as a gift, there's going to be a gift tax there. Then you got the prize tax, casinos, lotteries, raffles, whatever the case may be, where you obtain a large quantity of items and it is identified on the transition of ownership that it is a prize won. That's when a prize tax kicks in. But we're talking about the laws that changed as far as just regular like bank reporting your transactions. So if you live in California in certain zip codes, if you live in Texas in certain areas, we're going to be covering this on Monday. And the laws have changed where now the banks are mandatorily required in certain areas to report any transaction that is over $200. Any cash transaction, deposit or withdrawal over $200. So your paycheck is being reported because it's going to be over $200. If you find a $250 commemorative Donald Trump bill and you deposit it into the bank, they're reporting it, right? The times have changed in certain zip codes. If you don't live in those cities, because it's not nationwide, if you don't live in the cities that are targeted for this, then you don't have to worry about it. But we're going to be covering this in length on Monday for individuals who might want to know about that. Um, Said, if someone gives me a suitcase of cash, I'm gone. I'm not going nowhere. You give me a suitcase full of cash, I'm gonna live life differently. See, a lot of people hide money in safes. That's one way that you can deal with your suitcase full of cash. Empty the suitcase full of cash into a safe, hide it on your property somewhere. Some people hide it in the wall. Some people hide it under the mattress. The only problem you have is that rats and fires and floods. Those are the issues with hiding your money in the house. But if you have a safe big enough to hold however much money that you have, like for example, some of those people in some of those areas where the delivery driver for a bank left a bag of cash off the bank truck on the road and somebody found it and it was like $1 million or some shit and they just like picked up the bag and walked off with it. Now, realistically speaking, I wouldn't deposit that anywhere because if my 9 to 5 typically only pays me 50 or $60,000 a year, I'm not going to start depositing $100,000 at a time into the bank. What I would do is I would start making cash purchases in some places and investing in brokerage accounts in other places. How would I get the money into a brokerage account? Well, one way would probably be start up a business at a different bank than the bank that got knocked, and then start making deposits, small deposits, get cashier's checks, start mailing checks from random locations, and start just making deposits on a regular basis. Start paying bills start paying for everything in cash. It's just work my way into a situation where the there's enough money in the bank where it would make sense for the business to do a big money move that would allow me to put cash down on a situation. Then work it right on into the business. Stuff like open up a laundromat. That's how money laundering typically happens. Open up a laundromat. All those fucking coins. You're not going to get $1 million worth of coins in 1 month, but you definitely could find yourself with a decent sized laundromat drawing back $10,000 or $15,000 a month, right? And then depositing the money into the bank off of something like that and work yourself into a situation where you ain't got to worry about stuff. Not too many real estate investment individuals are going to be like, oh yeah, he made $1 million transaction on property these days because just the laws have just changed, so they're not going to let that shit slide. But I would live a life of cash up front for small purchases. I'm not buying a car because that's going to red flag somebody. Where the fuck did he get 50 grand to buy a car from? Cash up front. Not doing that. They're going to report that. I would do a used car and rebuild it because no mechanic is going to be like, oh, fraud. He just did $20,000 worth of repairs and paid me in cash. No, he did $20,000 worth of repairs and paid me in cash. I'm going to be his best fucking customer. That's what I would do. I would buy the car, restore that bitch, maybe sell it, something like that. Where the I sold this car is where the paper trail starts. And then dealership license, blah, 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 things to that magnitude, right? Which would bring the money in, make more sense. But I would find a way to do it in a way where nobody really knows that the money was there. You got to live discreet. When people get big money all of a sudden, and then the moment they get the money, their whole lifestyle changes. They start wearing more expensive clothes. They start buying more expensive stuff. They start spending a bunch of money in a bunch of places. They start showing off in front of people. That's loud wealth. You go from borrowing money from folks to sharing money with the whole neighborhood. Everybody knows something changed with your financial situation. But if your life didn't change at all, like say for example, the video that's going around social media with a young buck who won $40,000 on a Knicks game, went into his job and acted ass on the job and quit, right? Then Walmart sued him for 100 grand, right? If he would have won that 40 bands and he would have put that 40 bands somewhere where he could either fix his life, pay off back debt, stuff to that effect. And after he did that, he just kept going to work. If he was the kind of person that was walking and catching a bus, he could have used that 40 bands to buy himself a car. If he was the kind of person that had a car, but it was old, he could have fixed it up or he could have bought him another one. But if he would have got 40 bands and he would have just kept going to work like nothing happened, then he wouldn't have an issue. Because actually $40,000 for a broke person is a lot of money. But $40,000 when your standard of living is $40,000, that's 1 year's worth of salary. And if you got fired off of your job or you quit your job by acting an ass on social media, when you go to apply for a job somewhere else, they're going to have red flags on you because they watched that video. They watched that video on how you, at the drop of a hat, could gamble some money, win some money, and then tear my place up. That's going to make it harder for him to get a job somewhere else. Michael said, "Cash, it's so micromanaged today that my account is directly linked to the Federal Reserve." Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier this year. Um that earlier this year, and I think I mentioned it sometime last year, but I know I definitely covered it earlier this year, that anybody who's getting government benefits is directly linked to the Federal Reserve, because Donald Trump had passed an executive order that by, I believe, September of last year, that the government had to switch over to electronic payments only for benefits, disability benefits, VA benefits, tax return money. And that's why I told you guys that you're supposed to have a plethora of bank accounts. But even in your own little city and state, you should have, there's multiple branches, there's multiple banks and credit unions that you can have. You should have one specific account that is direct deposit and one specific account for your tax information. So if you're getting funds from the bank, that's one account. If you're getting money in from somewhere else, that should be a separate account. And then if you're going to spend money, that should be a separate account. And if you want to have a savings account to hold money, that's a separate account, right? And that way, and then if you have auto pay, that's another account. And the reason why you have all of these different accounts is because you're not going to experience a situation where somebody's going to do something to one of your accounts. Then you have to dispute it. Then it locks up your account or locks up your funds until the dispute is over. Now, because that account is locked up, you can't get your money. Or because certain funds were locked up, you don't have enough money. Now you're overdrafting the account. Now you're borrowing money from somewhere else to cover the spread until the dispute is over. And that negatively impacts your money. So if your incoming money is not in the same account as your outgoing money, and a lot of people buffer this by making daily charges on their credit cards and then taking the cash and paying down the credit cards before the bill rolls over. That way, if they have to dispute their credit card, their cash is still coming in their bank accounts. You don't have to worry about your money being messed up. This is the reason why I tell you guys these things. I know you're back. I saw you, but you don't never talk about nothing. So we just kind of push the topic onto somebody who's actually going to have a real conversation. Now, after we finish with Monday, yeah, So your finger is out of retirement. Uh, so after we talk about on Monday the different ways that the new laws is going to be changing and negatively impacting our ability to make, save, and invest money. Then on Tuesdays we talk about different ways to make money and earn money. And that's the reason why I was like, oh shit, look at this stuff, because um what Trump was doing on one thing, I was like, oh yeah, I could talk about that. But then the Federal Reserve money changed, because that's another issue. They didn't do the tax cut this season, and we're concerned about potential tax cuts. Well, not tax cuts. We're concerned about tax hikes, not interest. Interest. They didn't do interest cuts this quarter, so we're concerned about them doing interest hikes coming soon. So probably by September. And I don't think so. I think that it's going to remain stable, because the fluctuations in the economy is due to the conflict overseas. And with the conflict overseas stabilizing at least for the next 60 days, by October, if they resolve the situation, no, I don't see nothing. Uh, he's exercising my finger, waiting on you. um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so um, if they were to come to a resolution in October, come September when they start talking about the because they do the cuts in December, so quarter three cuts should be like August, September kind of thing. June, July cuts right now. So I would expect for it to stay the same in September and then potentially be a cut in December. That would be what I would expect with the way things are going. And then Michael. And then after that, on Wednesdays, we talk about different countries around the world that we can go live in and potentially invest in. And then we switch over to Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Today being Saturday, we talk about different ways to for self improvement, self development, relationship topics. Today we're going to be talking about five money moves that turns your relationship into a highly productive, uh, uh, almost business, right? So we're going to be covering some topics um, in that situation, in that genre today. And then after those relationship topics, we talk about socialization, negotiations, building your brand, promotions, raises, retirement, forced retirement, termination, and then the importance of your 20 and 30-year plan. As we've had ample discussions throughout the past week about how figuring out exactly what you want for your future allows for you to figure out exactly what you got to do to get it is one of the key focuses on your 20 and 30-year plan, because just broad spectrum future goals of I want to be happy in the future, I want to be stress free in the future, I want to have freedom in the future, you know, that's it. That's not even an outline. That's a conceptual feeling. Okay, specifically, do you want to be married or no? Do you want to have kids in the future or no? If you want to have kids in the future, are you going to have the kids naturally? Or are you going to adopt them? You know, these things matter. When you start deciding, well, if you're going to have kids, are you going to have kids from birth? Or are you going to have kids that you adopt from a certain age? Will you have to go through the diaper phase? Will you have to go through the transitional phase of them dealing with you, like 7, 8, 9 years old when you first start stepping in? You know, are you doing pre-constructed families with the baby mama, the single baby mama kind of thing? You've got to take all of this stuff into consideration. Then when you think about what kind of job are you going to be working? Do you want to work until you die, or do you want to stop working by a certain age, or do you want to at least stop working by the national retirement age? You know, these things you have to take into consideration when you stop working. Where's your money going to be coming from to pay for your standard of living, and what kind of standard of living you want to have when you stop working? Do you want to live in the same house that you've been living in for the last 40 years, or do you want to upgrade your lifestyle? Do you want to have brand new cars, or do you want to have uh, uh, cash vehicles that can get you from point A to point B? You know, do you have good health, or like we had Sterling come in here the other day with bad health, and you have medical conditions that need to be covered? Do you need in-home nurses? Stuff to that effect. Do you want to be in a nursing home when you get older? Like all of the stuff that defines what your future is supposed to look like. That is your 20-year or 30-year plan. And you don't necessarily have to get it in 20 or 30 years. You can get it in 10, you can get it in 40 years, but you have a goal, you have a plan, and you have to step by step your way into getting there. And I tell you guys how important that is, because if you wanted to start up a business and make yourself successful by a specific time, that requires you to put in the kind of effort to get it done. If you put in the kind of effort to get it done, you find yourself in a position where everything's working correctly, right? But if you put in some effort and things change, like if you wanted to start your own business, if you wanted to run your own company, and then things change, your health isn't the way it is, instead of you running your own company, you're just going to be a high earner in investments. Cool. Whatever it is that you want to do in life, that's what you want to do. Then when you start thinking about other considerations, like what country are you going to live in when you're doing this? Are you going to live in one of the most expensive one of the most expensive states in the country, or are you going to live in one of the cheapest states in the country? If you are you going to live in a cheaper country than the United States? Like all of these things are things that we can talk about, because just like with Sterling's situation, if you got a fixed income, $24,000 a year, not going to get very far in America. But that same $24,000 a year, especially if he was making it off the computer and get direct deposits, he could go to a place like the Philippines and get permanent residency with $24,000 a year. And that's like a middle class lifestyle where the health insurance would likely cover the cost of what he's got going on right now, where he wouldn't have to worry about how he was going to pay for his medication because he would have the medication and a good standard of living in a different country. So it's not feasible for him here in America, but it would be feasible for him in a different country. It just requires you to change your environment and figure out where your final days is going to be. Him being 40 years old, his 20-year plan would put him at 60, 61 years old, 62 years old. But that would give him the ability to decide what can and cannot be done. And what cannot be done is only limited by what you don't want to do. Like if you don't want to not lose your social security disability, they cap you at $1,000 a month and then say you're not allowed to make more than another $1,000 a month in income in order for them to keep giving you free money. Well, that means that you're capped at $24,000 a year. If you want to have a comfortable standard of living of 70,000 a year, you're going to have to say fuck Social Security. But while you're not making 24,000 a year, you can depend on Social Security, but you can phase that shit out. Your lifestyle is not dependent upon government funds, but when times is tough and money is not where it's supposed to be, and if the government is going to give you some funds, you can gladly say thank you. Michael says, you'll want to downsize and live on one flat floor with no stairs. And that way you can roll the bed from one room to another. I don't know about the bed, but you are correct. You would have to be on the ground floor. You would have to have a regular flat. You would have to be on the first floor, guardrails, no stairs. And if there's mandatory stairs on a property, you would need ramps to get to where you got to go. You're going to need guardrails in the shower, probably guardrails to get in and out of the shower, things like that to help you get around so that you're not falling down when you're getting in and getting out of the shower kind of thing. But yeah, you're right. That is stuff that you would have to do. How far from the bathroom to the bed? That's going to be a big issue. If the bathroom is far away, you might need bedpans and stuff. It depending on what kind of health you have. If your declining health is going to require you to need an in-home nurse, somebody to help you with sponge baths and wiping your butt and stuff like that. You got to take all that stuff into consideration because that in-home nurse has a price. Doesn't matter if it's a hot nurse. It doesn't matter if it's a masculine nurse. It doesn't matter if it's an old, ugly nurse that's been doing this for 40 years. What matters is that if you want an in-home nurse, that's going to come at a price. Will you have depends until you pass? Yep, that is truth be told. You joking, but that's a serious note. Will you have depend? At what age will depends become mandatory? Because it's not going to be an if, it's a when. Because you might find yourself at like 85 or 95 years old, depending on which where you are, where you're not as in control of your bowel movements as you used to be. And something as simple as peeing on your shoes. You might wear the Depends to keep from peeing on yourself. Not necessarily pooping on yourself, but you might wear the Depends to keep from peeing on yourself. It depends on what's going on with your life. But factoring those things in, because if you go from regular underwear everywhere to Depends diapers, that's an extra surplus on your budget. If you live long enough, it is guaranteed to happen. And that's one of the reasons why planning for your retirement means that you have to plan for what life should look like for you when you're 92, what life should look like for you when you're 85, what life should look like for you when you're too damn old to be out there standing in front of a Walmart staring at people because you can't say hello, right? That is the big part that people don't pay attention to, and that's what we talk about. That's what we encourage. Now, today, we were talking about couples. We were talking about people getting their relationships together. Most couples don't realize that their relationships are already machines. We don't get along enough in our relationships. I love you, but I don't like you. That's typically how things are. The only question is, what kind of machine is it? So, for many, the the machine is just burning cash. And a lot of times it's also burning energy. It's a chaotic system running in reverse, fueled by tiny unspoken resentments that build up over time. Some people don't say what they mean when they need to, and some people don't do what they say they're going to do after y'all talked about it. It's a constant low grade stress over grocery bills, the huge fight about surprising credit card statements, the silent tension over who works more or who saves more and where all the money is really going, especially when the money ain't enough. And that sound, that's your engine sputtering. That's a misfire. It's the sound of value being destroyed. He said couples, they'll figure it out. Well, a lot of couples don't figure it out. That's why they don't last more than 1 year, 5 months, and 6 days because they don't figure it out. The thing is that the biggest issue with the difference of opinion in a relationship is that there is a way that I behave and there is a way that I expect you to behave. And that's going to come from both people. I expect you to leave me be and let me do me, but I expect you to do certain things a certain way. And everybody's going to be like that. Now, the clash between two people, like we talked about yesterday, and part of the day is going to be your financial decision making skills. Because if there isn't enough money in there, there's always going to be an argument. Where did the money come from? Where is the money going? Why are the bills not being paid on time? But when the bills are being paid on time on a regular basis, when there isn't a financial hiccup in things, and especially in a situation where only one person is handling the money and the other person has more than enough money to spend on the things that they want to spend, nobody really cares what's going on with the budget, even if one person is financially stressed out because they're trying to make ends meet, they're splitting hairs and everything to that effect because the money things happen, but they don't talk to their partner about it. So they have the whole financial picture. Their partner believes the lights are on, water's still running, there's no eviction notice on the house, there's no repo man coming to take the car, everything's fine. Everything's not fine. Money wasn't where it was supposed to be when it was supposed to be there. And now I got to go find extra money to cover this bill over here and blah, 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 blah. And that stress is only on the person that knows about it. And there's a lack of communication in most relationships. Now, the other thing is expectations. My expectations could be a higher ethic of work than your expectations. Your expectations could be a higher grade of relaxation than my expectations. Now, my expectations forced on you, you're going to feel like you're being asked to do more than what you believe you should do. Then, if you don't see the other person perform, well, why are you bitching at me? Because you're not doing anything either. But the holistic observation is that one person is working in the shadows all day and all night. The other person is only working when they're being seen, and that is a conflict of interest because the person who doesn't know they're being watched will relax more often than what they should, and the person that's working themselves into the ground is doing more work without being seen than they should, and there's an uneven balance in the relationships. So it's not a situation where they'll figure it out. It's a situation where you need to come together and talk it out, put it on paper, get that observation, get the girlfriend contract up there so that you can really get these people under wraps in a way where we're not going to waste this specific opportunity to work out our discomforts with each other's behaviors, which is why I tell you guys here in 2026, if you're getting into new relationships, you need to set the framework from the beginning of the relationship of your non negotiable expectations for behavior on both sides of the table. And then if you've already been in a relationship for a while, coming across this new information, you should sit your partner down and have that talk where you're not coming and complaining about, oh, something fucked up happened yesterday or something fucked up happened last week, blah, 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 blah. That's not what you're doing. You're coming and you're sitting down and you're saying, well, look, we're in a new year, halfway through the new year. So we're going to start trying to get some stuff situated. Let's start with all the gripes in the relationship. Not you did this and I did that. What activities or actions or functions did you expect to occur that didn't occur? And then when the person comes and rolls out the scroll, take notes and don't take offense. When you roll out the scroll, you're going to do the same thing. And then you guys are going to work out, okay, so now that we know what each other would expect, let's negotiate how we're going to accomplish that. Not all the time is it just you need to quit the bullshit. A lot of the times it's more to the magnitude of let's agree that in this situation that this is the practice that we're going to perform. That's something that we need to recognize, right? And then actually proactively do it. Now, accountability is going to be a tough one because once you agree to do something, you have to agree to do something that you're willing to do. Because if you just agree just to make the conversation stop, if you agree just to make the person go away, you're not actually fixing the problem. You're making the problem worse because now you have a verbal agreement between you and your partner, you and the other person in the house, that you're going to perform in a certain way that you don't really want to perform. You just said yes to make the talking stop. And that is the one of the biggest issues in the failures of communication when communication happens, because conflict avoided people will say whatever you want to hear so that there's no more conflict. I don't want to hear whatever I want to hear as the to make the conflict go on a hiatus. I want us to actually resolve the issue so that there is no longer an issue, right? Because if we have to have this talk every week, if we have to have this talk every month, then the problem is ongoing, right? It's not a one time discussion, problem solved. Let's check in every now and again and make sure that we can make certain adjustments so that everybody's always happy. If it's a situation where we're just stuck in a you're not performing and I'm not happy because you're not performing mentality where I'm not going to tell you nothing because conflict avoided, you're only going to do stuff when you know I'm watching, conflict avoided. I'm going to have that resentment. You're going to be wondering why we don't ever do nothing, and it's going to be because of the resentment. And if we're going to live like that, we can live in two separate rooms on two separate sides of the house for 20 years because I resent you for not performing the way you guaranteed me you would perform. And I'm not going to talk to you about it, but I'm not going to fuck with you neither. He said, I expect her to do me. Well, I expect her to do more. He said, Happy Father's Day. Father's Day long past, buddy. I think Father's Day was like last week, Sunday. He said, Mine is 94 years old and he's healthy and well. Well, congratulations on that. Uh, then resolve it, seek therapy, or get a new girlfriend. See, that's the thing. Resolving it requires both parties, so you can't just say resolve it. You have to have an understanding with your partner that they're willing to resolve it. That's going to be the first thing. So you have to identify what the issues are. Then you have to communicate how you feel about these issues so that your partner understands your position. Then you have to expressly get the confirmation from your partner not to resolve this discussion, but to have a guaranteed performance agreement with your partner that you're going to start seeing certain performance going forward. Because if you're not going to perform that way, don't agree to it because the resentment will get worse. Now, one of the things that people don't do in a relationship is strictly say, this is one of the reasons why I am building resentment towards you because of what I'm experiencing with your behavior patterns. Now, there's probably a better way for us to go about wording it, but just off the top of my head, this is going to build resentment between the two of us. Is a nicer way to say, hey, what you're doing is getting on my fucking nerves. But working through that is something that puts them on notice because you're not saying every time you want something, oh well, if I don't see improvement, we're gonna break up because that threat conditionalizes the person to prepare for a breakup. At some point, they're going to be like, well, fuck it. If you want to leave, leave. But letting them know, hey, this type of behavior or the lack of action is causing resentment to build in a relationship. Now, it's up to them to change. If they know that this is building resentment, the less communication we have between one another, the less interactions we have with one another, the less places we go together, you understand that that resentment is building because we've already talked about this. There are things that I've asked you to do that you said you would do that you're not doing the way you said you would do them. And that leads me to say, well, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. I make it clear I don't fuck with people that don't perform. And I'm not talking about putting on a show. I'm talking about being productive. If you can't find I've said at minimum 5 different things to accomplish in one day. And if we're in a situation where your ass ain't got no job, you got 24 hours out of the day to figure that out. If you take out 8 hours a day for sleep, that gives you what, 16 hours to figure that out. I say 10 things in a day. That's one thing an hour for 10 hours, and that still gives you 6 hours to be lazy out of your awake time. That gives you a 2 hour breakfast, a 2 hour lunch, a 2 hour dinner, and still be able to do 10 different things, 10 easy things. You might do 5 hard things that might take 10 hours to get it done, but you will find that all of the things that need to get done would get done to the magnitude that when I show back up, I got less shit to do. Now, if I'm in a relationship with somebody, if I'm in a partnership, if I'm in an agreement, if I'm in a cohabitation scenario where you can't find 10 things to do in a day, but you ain't got nothing to do all day, that's all right. We just not gonna fuck with one another. So you can't just say, well, resolve it. You know, on paper, that's the observation, but in actuality, that's unproductive. When you say seek therapy, therapy only works for people who want to improve themselves. Going to therapy like going through the motions is not going to fix shit because you'll sit there. It's going to go in one ear and go out the other. You're going to listen to this person bitch for an hour with the therapist after listening to that person bitch all the way to the therapist and then listening to the person bitch all the way from the therapist. And that's ultimately 3 or 4 hours worth of listening to the other person bitch. Once that person finished bitching because you're conflict avoided and you just agree, but never show improvement, you'll find yourself in a situation where you're not improving. You know your partner's unhappy, but you're not improving. Therapy is not going to fix that until you decide I'm going to stop being the disappointment in my relationship that has already been identified and presented to me. Once you decide to stop being the disappointment in your relationship and start proactively being an asset, not a liability, that's when the behavior of your partner is going to improve. But your partner's behavior is not going to improve instantaneously because you can't put on a show and start doing good this week and then go back to the old norm next week. You can't say, well, I'm going to do okay for the first like 2 or 3 weeks. And if my partner's not satisfied, fucking I'll go back to the old ways. No, you have to be consistent for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. And then your partner can guarantee with confidence say, well, for the last 3 months, my partner's consistently showed improvement, which means that my partner should consistently show improvement for the next 3 months. Now I have confidence in me putting in extra effort to match that vibe. But that only works if the person slacking in the relationship, if the person slacking in the household is going to pick up that slack. If they're not, then the resentment is always going to be there. You guys just won't talk. You're not going to communicate. And the reason why you're not going to communicate is because instead of cursing this person out because you're very disappointed in their lack of performance, you just don't tell them anything. If they say, hey, you with disgruntledness, say, hey, back, but you're going to keep your conversation short. You're going to keep your responses minimal. You're not going to want to hang out with them in the same place at the same time. You're not going to want to hover and exist in the same room with them. You're not going to want to do activities with them around the house. You're going to want to keep as much distance between you and them as possible because you're resenting the fact that they're not performing to your expectations after promising you or guaranteeing you that they would. So therapy doesn't work on that one. And then when you say get a new girlfriend, starting over is always difficult. You have the leaving process, whether you put her out or you have to move out. You have to recalibrate your assets. You have to recalibrate your income. You have to recalibrate your mentality. You have to recalibrate your emotions. Then you have to start from scratch, putting in the effort to build trust with a new person. Where you just like getting another used car after trading in your used car, you can't guarantee that the person that you're getting is going to be better than the person that you have. But you can guarantee if the person that you had doesn't change their behavior, that you're not going to find the happiness in your current relationship that you would have if you weren't in that relationship. So while that does kind of give you a little bit of a an outline, there's more to it than that, right? He says, I'll tell you what does work is procrastination. Yeah, oh yeah. What doesn't work is procrastination. Procrastination doesn't work. And one of the funniest things about procrastination, you might tell yourself, I'll do it in an hour. You might tell yourself, I'll do it in 5 hours. You might tell yourself, I'll do it right after this song, or I'll do it right after this TV show, or I'll do it right after this commercial break. And you will find accidentally, not intentionally, that I'll do it in a moment will turn into next week. It'll turn into next month. If you're doom scrolling on social media, that could go from 5 swipes to 5 hours of swiping, right? If you're binge watching movies, it could go from I'm just going to watch 1 or 2 episodes to sitting there all day watching TV. I'm going to lay here and rest my back could turn into I'm laying in bed all day. You might have said, well, I'm going to rest until the pain dies down, and the pain never dies down, and then you be in the bed all day. And the worst part about that specific one is that you're going to find yourself a lot of the times going back to sleep out of boredom. Now, the problem with that is when you go back to sleep out of boredom, you break your normal sleep schedule. When you break your normal sleep schedule, now when it's time for bed, you can't sleep. Now you're up all night and you're unproductive because this is sleep time. So you're laying in bed watching TV because you can't sleep because you've been sleeping all day because you've been laying around the house all day doing nothing. Now you can't sleep all night, and now you're tired in the morning where you find yourself sleeping all day and up all night, but you're not productive at night because that's sleep time, and you're not productive in the day because that's when you're actually sleeping. So procrastination is terrible. Then when you put it off, especially if it's not an emergency, you put it off and put it off and put it off. It needs to get done, but if it doesn't get done, it just doesn't get done. Your partner is full of frustration because your partner needs it to get done. They keep asking you to do it, but you don't do it. So that's where the situation keeps getting worse. Is that I'll never meet the person perfect. I'll never meet the perfect person in my life. No, you won't, but you can definitely meet a person that's not going to make your situation worse. He said, "Oh, stay with her and then learn to live with the quirkiness." That's where the resentment's going to lead to them staying in two separate houses. Exactly. You said it. That's the final nail in the coffin. I'm not going to leave the person that I'm with because I've invested so much into them. So I'm going to make do with what I have. Self-preservation. Whoever it is, whether it's the man or the woman who's unhappy in a relationship, is going to continue to build resentment for their partner, but they're going to stay in the relationship with their partner. The intimacy is going to die down in the relationship because you cannot say that you're going to be able to get intimate with somebody that you're pissed off at. So, with the intimacy dwelling out of the relationship, the romance is dwelling out of the relationship, the interactions are dwelling out of the relationship. You go from being in a relationship to being in a cohabitation, a partnership, a roommate. You end up phasing out. Well, one of y'all with the emotional abandonment is going to find the emotional fulfillment outside of a relationship, and that's where cheating comes from. Or that's one of the reasons why cheating would develop in a relationship because of the resentment that you have for your partner. It's not validating cheating, but it does contribute to the cause. Now, financial stress is one of the biggest sources of tension in any relationship. Lack of motivation and lack of application is also one of those pretty stringent situations that people don't pay attention to. Studies show that financial disagreements are a strong predictor of relationship dissatisfaction and divorce. Dissatisfaction is one of the reasons why women leave. The 80% of women leave their relationship due to dissatisfaction. Men, self-preservation, typically don't leave their girlfriend or their wife from dissatisfaction. They usually leave their wife because of infidelity and disrespect. But they will cheat on their wife due to dissatisfaction of their girlfriend or their wife's behavior. And then again, not resolving the problem, you move out. That's what I said before. uh, you come up with a lot of solutions, and I'm not saying that any of them are wrong. I'm just saying that they're not fixing the core problem. Treating the symptoms, brainstorming to treat the symptoms of the core problem doesn't fix the core problem. The core problem would be in most relationships two things: the lack of communication and a lack of application after the communication. Soon as somebody comes up and says, I have a problem with the relationship, I'm not happy, that's it. That is the final notice in a relationship. It's the first time you're hearing about it, but that's the final notice in a relationship that you need to get your shit together. Because what is it? Verbal warning, behavior patterns change. Written warning, they start talking to you funny. Text messages, phone calls, this, that, and the third. Final warning, somebody has stepped up and had an intervention like, look, man, I'm not happy right now. Once your partner has grown the courage to tell you that for whatever reason, they are not happy with the way things are between the two of you, that is when you need to recognize that you need to get off your ass and start doing something different so that your partner can no longer feel that way. Now, you don't have to, but if you know that your partner is not happy in the relationship due to your lack of action, your lack of performance, your behavior patterns, and you are unwilling to make adjustments, especially when their complaint is stress due to lack of productivity or stress and overwhelmed feelings of anxiety for having too much workload on one individual, and you're unwilling to make a change. You've acknowledged that there's a problem and you're ignoring it. Now, in that situation, there's an extra problem because you don't give a fuck. That person is now going to feel unvaluable in the relationship and they're ultimately going to leave. But you knew you could have fixed it and you did nothing. So when you reach to the point where you're like, oh, well, then move out. Sometimes it's not in your benefit to move out. Sometimes, and that's when you end up in a situation where you just deal with it and stay there. You live on two separate sides of the house and don't interact with one another. Moving out, typically, moving out should happen before violence occurs in a relationship, and moving out should happen when you are unable to reconcile the situation. You should never live together for the sake of the kids. You should only live together if you can work it out. And you're not going to make it work where you're going to force the other person to change. The other person has to be willing to change, or one of y'all need to go somewhere else. But in certain situations where you got an equity stake in the game, y'all are financing a house together, you don't want to move out of your house. Go live somewhere else and pay rent somewhere else because the person that you're living with ain't doing what they're supposed to do. So a lot of the times what they'll do is they'll just live in the same house. We're both invested in this property. We're gonna stay in the same house. We just not gonna fuck with one another. So you find if you're in that type of relationship, that's why your relationship is that way, because you're not willing to change. And you might be with a partner where your partner's not willing to change. Now, you do have to extend that olive branch and try to communicate with them every few weeks about your resentment and check back with them so that they can know that I haven't seen what I need to see to feel less disappointed in this relationship, but I'm still disappointed, right? He said the problem is here 70% is her lack of emotional support, whatever that is, and unequal household chores, the drug abuse and domestic violence. Right. Now, unequal household chores is going to be an issue because it depends on who's got what job. We talked about on the show before, the division of responsibilities typically depends upon the accessibility to those responsibilities. So a lot of times in a family, there isn't a chore chart, but whenever the trash can gets full, whoever sees the trash can full should take the trash can out. Some people might feel like if I don't contribute to the quantity of trash that gets built in that trash can, it shouldn't be my responsibility. Some people might feel like, well, it could fit a little bit more trash in there, but the trash is overflowing onto the floor. Other people might feel like, well, while you could fit more trash in there, there's a dog in the house, and you don't want the trash to get high enough for the dog to have trash all over the floor. The again, the lack of understanding between the two people, when the bag gets full, take it out. That has to be an understanding. But if you have the kind of person that'll take the trash out of the can and then leave it in the house, well, if you take it out and if you take it out of the can, but you don't take it to where it needs to go to get picked up, then it's going to sit there until the other person takes it out. Now you're putting the burden on the other person. You pulled the bag, but you're going to put the burden on the other person to deliver it to where it needs to go to be thrown out. So when you say unequal division of chores, you need to have that again, that communication with the person. But if you're dealing with a procrastinator, if you're dealing with a person that does not perform, once they know that you prefer that, at least if there's two people in the house, every other time the trash can gets full, that you take a bag to the road or take a bag and put it outside in the garbage can, right? However the case may be. In that dynamic, if you went out and checked the mail and you see a bag, next time the bag is full, it's your turn. Now, if you don't put that in your mindset, you might have one person take the trash out 5 times, the other person take trash out 2 times out the week, and you're still gonna have a level of resentment. Yeah, the trash is getting taken out, but on the days when it's your turn, the trash piles up so much that it has to overflow onto the floor before you take the trash out. So the uneven division of chores is going to fundamentally be because the person that's not performing as much in chores for whatever reason does not feel obligated or responsible for the chores, which puts the burden on the other person. The other person might be a cleaner person, they might be a more organized person. The person that's not performing as much might not give a fuck because it doesn't impact me. If they're the kind of person that stay in their room all the time, they're not out in the common areas. So if the common areas need service, they're not out there. They don't give a fuck. They're in their bed all day watching TV. So in that dynamic, the other person is not going to perform because out of sight, out of mind. I'm not thinking about doing dishes. I'm never in the kitchen. I go in there to get something to eat, but I'm not in there. I don't need what's in the sink. So, and with men, a man can use the same fork for 45 days. So, if there's dishes in the sink, I mean, my fork is over here, So that's still another situation where communication has to be followed by performance. You can't just ask your partner to do better. You can't just tell your partner that you will get better. You actually have to do better after the discussion, because if not, the whole talk of changing your life and improving things and improving your relationships and improving your interactions with one another is just a waste of time. It actually starts becoming like going to church. You sit there on Sunday pretending like you give a shit about not going to hell, and then you go back to doing exactly the same stuff that you should not be doing that would lead you to go to hell anyway, right? Michael says, "Oh yeah, and then drug abuse and domestic violence." Well, a lot of the times it's not just drug abuse, and a lot of times, so in some normal healthy relationships, you don't even have the drug abuse and domestic violence as a problem. You have the line is drawn in the sand with the lack of emotional support and unequal household chores. That's a lot of the arguments in a relationship. Finances, the lack of emotional support because people don't feel seen, they don't feel heard, they don't feel respected, they don't feel appreciated, they don't feel validated. And then the unequal division of household chores. I got to work, so I expect you to do more work around the house. You might have a job, but if one person works away from the home and the other person works at the home, the person that works away from the home believes that because they commute to work, that their job is more taxing on them than the person who works from home. But you also have to recognize that if the person that works from home works 60 hours a week and the person who leaves the house to go to work only leaves the house 4 days a week, you have one person at the house not having to work 3 days out of the week. The person with the most accessibility to the household chores would likely have more responsibility towards the chores. Now, the person who has 3 days off has more access to the chores than the person who's at the house every day and only has 1 or 2 days off. But there should still be a reasonable distribution of chores. We're not going to get 50-50. Typically, it's 60-40. It's 60-40 or 70-30. One person is going to do more of something than somebody else. The only time there's a reasonable balance is when the person who does less in one area does more in another. If one person does more in most areas, now the entire relationship is off kilter. You're in a situation where one person is dependent, riding the coattails of the performance of the other. You're not going to get that back to an equal balance until the lower performer starts overachieving. And if they're going to make excuses all under the sun, maybe, oh, it was raining outside. My back hurts. My neck hurts. My shoulder hurts. Oh, I'm cramping. I got a headache. Oh, the kids. Oh, blah, blah. Whatever excuse that they're making to not perform, the person who's using excuses to not perform has to recognize in their mind that for whatever reason that they give to the other person, I'm still not performing. And they've already told me my lack of performance disappoints them. So now that I know that, no matter how I feel, that I am a disappointment because I'm not contributing the way they asked me to contribute, the way I vowed to contribute, I know why my relationship is the way it is. Now, when I do something about it, that's when I get improvement. Until I do something about it, I already know they're pissed off with me when I cross paths with them in the kitchen because I'm not doing enough and they've told me about it every week for the last however many months or however many years. You got 25-year-long marriages that exist exactly like that. But as soon as you start consistently performing in ways that you used to not perform, you will find your relationship with your partner is going to start getting better because the resentment will die down after a while. Because it's like, well, shit, they finally stepping up and starting to help out. It's about fucking time. You got to get over the it's about time phase. And then after that, you start dwindling into something else. Now, a lot of times this isn't a failure for the person. A lot of the times when we start dealing with breakdowns of communication, a lot of times it's a system failure. It's what happens when the most powerful economic unit that you have, which is your partnership, is left to run on autopilot, where people are just supposed to read each other's minds and expect that they know what's going on. But what if you could flip a switch? And what if, with five specific money moves, that you could transform the sputtering engine that you have as a relationship into a cash burning machine that is a high performance economic engine, an engine that systematically builds wealth, pays down debt, and buys back your freedom together. Because this is another thing that you got to think about. When you are in a relationship, in order for the highest performing person in a relationship to have freedom, that person has to replace the workload for themselves. So if your partner is an underperformer, now you have to hire help to replace the lack of performance from your partner, which means that you're going to go from being two people working together to build something to having three people where one person's being paid to help you do the work so that you don't have to do as much. Which means that when it's just the two of y'all have to build enough wealth to have a salary for the third person. Now, ladies, y'all got to understand, if y'all are in a relationship where a dude's got to hire a housekeeper, dude's got to hire a cook, dude's got to hire a babysitter, nanny, whatever the fuck's going on, chauffeur, personal assistant, whatever's going on, whatever that person's salary is, it don't matter if it's $50 a week. That's money coming out of your pocket, your budget money, because he is paying for the help that he told you he needed because you didn't bring that help when you could have. And that is an issue that every time help walks in the door and takes money out of your household, you should feel bad for yourself because you could have done that, but you just didn't. Now, when we start talking about this new engine that we're going to be laying down for you guys for today, is going to be the kind of engine where money stops being the source of conflict and becomes the fuel for the life that you both actually want to live. Because everybody wants to live a life where neither one of us has a responsibility. Everything is taken care of. Bills are automated. Money is being made. Doesn't matter how much it is, as long as what we want to do when we want to do it is covered by whatever income that we've got coming in. And yes, within realistic expectations, the things that we decide to do is going to be in line with the type of budget that we've created. So we're not sitting here thinking that I'm going to have a blank check lifestyle when I'm in my 70s or my 80s simply because I'm retired. No, if you're on a $70,000 a year income and you live in Wyoming, you might be able to spend a lot more money in that city than what you would if you were on a $70,000 income in California or New York or Hong Kong. You might be able to have a $70,000 income in Japan and go a hell of a lot further, or in the Philippines and go a hell of a lot further than what you would if you had that same $70,000 income in Denmark or Sweden, right? And we've covered these places. Now, in tonight's show, we're not talking about pinching pennies. We're not talking about cutting out lattes. We're giving you guys the exact blueprint to overhaul your relationship machine. We're going to show you how to turn your partnership into your single greatest asset. And some of these things that I'm going to be talking about are things that a lot of people are actually starting to do in their relationships where you'd be like, oh shit, it just does work. This is going to move you from conflict to coordination, from debt to wealth, and from anxiety to a shared sense of control. Okay. And this is how you turn your relationship into an economic engine. Now, before we get to the 5 moves, we have to start with a huge shift in perspective because if you don't change the way you think about things, you're not going to change the way you behave in those same scenarios. So I want you guys to stop thinking about your relationship just in emotional terms and start seeing it for what it also is, a powerful economic unit. So you want to think of yourself as a co-founder of a business called Us Incorporated. And this isn't about making love transactional. It's about applying the same logic that makes any business successful, such as clarity, shared goals, and smart resource allocation to your life as a team. Every successful business has a clear mission. Your relationship should too, right? So, right now, every single couple has a portfolio of incredible assets, even if it's not a lot of them. Most of these assets are just invisible assets. So they go unmanaged and they get wasted. What am I talking about? First, you have your time and your skills. One of you might be a creative genius, a natural salesperson, or a coding whiz. The other might be a master organizer, a detail oriented planner, or the calm voice of reason when everything's on fire. These aren't just personality quirks, they are productive capabilities. Second, you have intangible assets, right? You have shared reputation and a combined network of friends, family, and professional contacts. You have trust, not just with each other, but the trust others have in you two as a cohesive unit. Now, in the world of what some called relational economics, this is a massive advantage. High trust lowers friction and makes it easier to get things done when both parties are productive. Now, third thing you're going to have emotional assets. Okay. You've got shared motivation, hopefully, and mutual accountability, hopefully. And if you do, a solo entrepreneur might have manufactured all of their own motivation. But as a couple, you have a built in support system, hopefully. And I say hopefully because if you didn't before tonight's show, you need to. That way you can get more things done the way your relationship requires it. Now, when one of you is burnt out, and you're going to find that burnout is going to come in situations where Your partner's laying around in bed all day not doing anything because they're overly productive majority of the time, and they reach a time where they have the ability to just shut down and stop. And that's when they shut down and stop. Even if that person complains about the lack of productivity from their partner on a regular basis, once the primarily productive person finds themselves burnt out, they're going to stop producing. But now you understand that if your relationship vehicle was operating on one spark plug out of eight, that last spark plug went out, and now you have to do a tune up on your relationship because it ain't going nowhere after this, right? So, avoiding that burnout where your partner can step in and do for you what you are too exhausted to do on your own is a huge competitive edge to allowing the most productive person in the relationship or the most productive person in the household to continue to function on their own as a solo unit in a team where that person is being burnt out. So, if you guys got all the resources, skills, time, network, trust, emotional energy, the big question is, what is your relationship doing with it? As we've discussed for the last, what, hour, a lot of relationships ain't doing shit with it, right? And that is the fundamental answer. A lot of people not doing much, if anything, with it. Or worse, the assets are being actively drained, where one person is doing more or being tasked with more than the other. So when roles are unclear, you waste energy arguing over who was supposed to pay that bill. When your goals are unaligned, you're both pulling in opposite directions. One person is aggressively saving for a house while the other person is secretly racking up credit card debt. This isn't just a money problem, it's a resource allocation problem, right? It's like driving a car with the parking brake on. You're burning fuel and you're wearing the engine just to move a few inches. And you're putting an unnecessary quantity of wear and tear on the vehicle just to move the vehicle. The whole point of this economic engine framework is to eliminate that waste. It's about taking all your combined assets and aiming them in the same direction towards a shared vision, hopefully profits. Now, in this model, it's not just going to be about the money. When we start talking about profit, it's going to be less stress. Profit is fewer arguments. Profit is peace of mind that comes from knowing that you have a plan. And a lot of times, profit is the ability to know that you would actually have physical, visible support. Because emotional support is good. But I've told people in my life that I don't need a fucking cheerleader watching me struggle. If there's supposed to be two of us doing this, then there needs to be two of us doing this, not one of us doing it and one of us cheering us on. It doesn't work that way. A special shout out to Mr. Satellite. Good to see you, buddy. Man, you was asking me the other day about, man, what you still doing up? So, bro, we was on till like 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, 10:30 in the morning. We did a 9.5 hour podcast that day when you were like, what y'all still doing up so late? You had to got up in the morning, ate your Cheerios, watched you some Cartoon Network, got ready for for summer camp. We were still on a live podcast from the night before. That was a long night. I'm not trying to do another one of those for a while. I don't know how these folks can sit there. Well, I can see how they can sit there if it wasn't a one-on-one conversation for 9 hours. I can see if I had like 8 people around the table with me, I could see us running a 6 hour show. But There was 4 a.m. for me 2 or 3 days ago. No, but I kept going after that. 4 hours after you left, I was still here. That's what I'm trying to tell you. 4 or 5 hours after you left, I was still here. Uh, Sun rose. It was like 2 hours before lunchtime when the podcast ended. I'm telling you, like we could. You talked to me. It was 4 a.m. for me too. But it's 5 more hours later, it was still here. Steven was like, man, I clocked out and I came back. Steven do like a 12-hour shift. He said, man, I clocked out, got home, seen the podcast was still running. I had to go and see if this was a pre-recorded. um, but yes, the other profit that we have is also actually going to be wealth that you're going to be building when your performance engine is functioning smoothly. So when you start seeing that your relationship is in a functioning process as a system that can either create or destroy value, everything starts to change. Money stops being a taboo topic and becomes what it should be, which is a tool that you can manage, optimize, and use to build the life that you both want. So, the 5 money moves that we're about to cover are the practical steps to build that system, and they are the tune up, the oil change, and the user manuals for your new economic engine in your relationship. The very first move is to figure out what your engine is actually made of. You wouldn't start a business without knowing what you have to work with. And the same is going to go for your relationship. It's time for a relationship balance sheet. This isn't just about the money in your bank account, it's a full inventory of your combined power and capabilities in your relationship. So I want you guys to sit down with your partner, grab a big sheet of paper, or open up a spreadsheet. Make 2 columns, assets and liabilities. And don't be petty and put yourself under the asset section and put your partner under the liability section, because it's going to be self explanatory once we start going down the list of what is considered an asset and what is considered a liability. So when we start with the assets, this is going to be where you map out everything that you both bring to the table. And I know that women are going to be very, very offended by this particular observation. But truth be told, one of the reasons why women are offended by the discussion of what women bring to the table is because women do not bring to the table as much as they should or as much as they're expected to. And with the lack of performance, they still expect to receive maximum uh, 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 compensation for minimum effort. And that's not all women. It's just the women that conduct themselves in an unrealistic behavior pattern where, I am the table justifies I don't bring shit to this relationship. I don't contribute at all. Anytime you ask somebody what do you bring to the table and they say that I am the table, the honest rebuttal to that is, well, the table's broken and that's why we're having this conversation. So since you broken, we have to fix you. Nah, that's going to start an argument. No, in all reality, a person that tells you that they are the table, it's like, okay, so since you're the table, we really need to talk about what goes on this table, because the fact is that the relationship itself is the true table, and what we are bringing to the relationship is what we're discussing. So if you are quote unquote the table, then you're saying that you are the relationship, and what are you bringing to yourself that benefits me since you're the table? Because I'm supposed to benefit you and you're supposed to benefit me. If you are benefiting me, then I'm not unhappy. If I am benefiting you, you are not unhappy. Happy wife, happy life is how men are trained by society to make sure that their woman is always satisfied. But no, there's no saying that exists where women are conditioned to make sure that their men are satisfied. And a lot of times men go without saying that they're unhappy. They're just unhappy, and the resentment builds and they avoid the cause of their unhappiness. So now you got somebody in a room by themselves where there's more than one person in the house and they're ignoring each other because the person that is resentful is unhappy, usually with the lack of performance of their partner, the other person in the house, right? So we need to really discuss what each other's bringing to the table. Now, we want to start off with a positive foot, right? So, even the simplest things that you are capable of, we're just going to put it all down. And you're going to need a granular assessment, starting off with your hard skills. These are going to be the tangible things, stuff that you can see, marketable abilities. Think writing, design, coding, bookkeeping, sales, video editing, public speaking, event planning, or fluency in multiple languages. Don't be humble here. If you're great at something, write it down. If you're good at something, write it down. If you're efficient at something, write it down, right? You might discover that one of you is a marketing pro and the other is a tech guru. That's a business right there. So we're not sitting here trying to take shots at one another. I'm going to write down one thing about me that is a good, tangible skill set, and you write down one thing about you that's a good, tangible skill set. And we're just going to keep going back and forth until we run out of things to do. And this isn't going to be a oh me too, because we're not the same. We're two different people. We might have some similar skill sets, but there are not. We don't have all the same skill sets. So, for example, I might cook based on years of experience in restaurants. You might organize and clean things based on your years of experience with housekeeping and nannies and babysitting and stuff like that that you used to do before you started getting a career in something significant. You know, if you have a skill set in organizing a house, guess what skill set you have that not too many people think about? A home decorator, which a lot of times women are better at than men, which actually in real estate is fucking fantastic because why do you think certain houses that go up for sale look so good on the photo? Because it's full of furniture. It's not an empty building. They take a picture of what it would look like if somebody lived there. And a lot of the times the furniture is so fucking nice, people buy the house because of the way the furniture looks in the house. But the house is going to be four walls and none of that furniture in the damn house. But you can imagine yourself living in that house, in that furniture. And that's why you buy that furniture. I mean, that's why you buy that house. Being able to keep a house organized is a skill set that could potentially lead to a completely different occupation, right? Next thing we're going to be talking about is your soft skills. Now, these are often overlooked but incredibly valuable skills. So you want to think things like negotiations. So if your partner argues with you, she doesn't have a negotiation trait. But if you have to de-escalate her conflicts, you might have the negotiation trait. Empathy, conflict resolution, staying calm under pressure. All of these traits might be under the same person, but if y'all got it, write it down. Or ladies, being exceptionally persuasive. The man might have all the other traits, but the lady might have being exceptionally persuasive. Write it all down because this is about what the group has. We're not comparing each other to one another. We're determining what do we both bring to the same table so that we can use this table to turn a profit. Now, is one of you a planner and the other one a visionary? Is one the conductor who knows everyone while the other is the focus worker who just gets things done? These are skills that are the grease that keeps the engine from seizing up. Because if one person can organize it and the other person can execute the plan, y'all have a functioning team. Because the person who spends so much of their effort completing the task usually is disorganized. The person who spends a lot of the time organizing all of the details usually doesn't get much stuff done. But if you can split the work where one person organizes how when it's going to get done and the other person performs how it's going to get done, you can divide the responsibility. One task divided into two parts where both of you are reasonably involved in it, and that still takes a lot of workload off of one person because you don't have a planner and an executor in one person. You have one person planning and the other person executing. Then you want to list your tangible assets. So we did tangible skills and now we're doing tangible assets. This is going to be more traditional stuff from both of you: cash, investments, tools, equipment like cameras or microphones, software that you already paid for, cars, or even a spare room that can become an office, a podcast that's already in existence, you know, social media following that's on a platform where you can create a podcast and connect that network to it. Whatever you got going on. Because when you decide to start something, when you try to start something from nothing, the first thing you have to do is determine how much do you need that you don't already have to turn nothing into something. You want to bake bread? The first thing you have to do is go in the fridge and see what ingredients already exist. Then you go to the store and buy the stuff you don't have. That's what we're doing here. We're looking in a relationship and seeing what already exists, and then we're seeing what else we have to go and get to make ourselves more successful. But this is going to be very huge because it's going to include your professional reputations, your credibility in certain fields, social media followings, or your combined professional networks. Who do you know, whether it's together or individually, that could open doors for whatever it is that you guys might decide to do? And then finally, your time assets, your availability. You got to be specific here. Do you have 2 hours free every Tuesday night? Is one of you an early bird who can own the 6 to 8 a.m. slot for a project where the other one might be a 9 to 7 individual who can carry it further? Because y'all don't have to be on the exact same time clock working side by side. But if one of you is going to be awake during the day, that person can perform while one person is asleep. And then when the other person is awake at night, that person can perform while the first person is asleep, which actually starts bringing you closer to an 18 to 24-hour a day performance from the relationship. Map out the real blocks of time that you could dedicate to building something together that is not going to cut into your natural sleep schedule. Okay. Now, let's hit that liability column because if you start off with positive before you get into the negative, you have less resentment going in. Every good business knows its weakness. You got to be brutally honest. So point fingers at yourself, not the other person. That way, this doesn't start becoming petty. Look at the debt. Credit card debt. Your partner have credit card debt. Student loans. Does your partner have student loans? Car payments. Does your partner have car payments? What else do they got going on? Borrow some money from somebody, right? Leverage with some loan sharks. You got some unpaid gambling debts. What's going on? Something that will take money out of the situation. Get the exact numbers, and most importantly, the interest rates applied to those numbers. You can fix a problem only if you know that it exists. So you can't fix that problem if you refuse to look at it. Now, list your reoccurring obligations and time frames. And this could be a lot of things. What commitments are already eating up your time and your energy? This could be anything from family obligations to side projects that are going on right now, side hustles, uh, um, household chores and obligations that you have to perform that takes up a lot of your day. You really want to get down and dirty and kind of like write down everything that is getting in your way to perform something else. Okay. Now, you also have to recognize that time management could have you spread out all of your responsibilities over the course of a month so that you're not trying to do everything in one day, every day, and then being burned out every day and not accomplishing half of the things that you wanted to accomplish for that day. Because I did tell you to try to find at least 5 things every day where 2 of them are major things that need to get done and 3 of them are things that can wait till tomorrow, but you want to try to do it 5. But if you out of the 5 at least get 2, you will find yourself accomplishing 14 things a week. It does work. And then you want to pay attention to side projects that you're performing that aren't going anywhere. You want to list your weak habits, and this is going to require some real talking. Do you have a habit of impulse spending? Because even if you don't have debt, if you spend the extra money that comes in, that can be a problem. You have an issue with procrastination. You find yourself less motivated to get out of bed without somebody forcing you to get up and be productive. Do you avoid tough conversations? Is one of your uh, uh, if is one of your skill sets not paperwork? Because if you keep paperwork disorganized and things aren't going the way they're supposed to go, these are the leaks in your financial engine. Once this is all mapped out, you're going to do something really powerful. You're going to look for complementary situations. The most successful partners are often made of people with complementary skills. One person is very visionary, style of a person, the other one is an operator. The goal isn't for you both to be good at the same thing. The goal is for your strengths to cover each other's weaknesses. For example, the married couple who started a successful beekeeping business, uh, Bolton Bees, split their roles naturally. One partner was a bee expert and a visionary, while the other handled the hands on labor and operations. We had a situation where Chris Arquette, with the Totally Bodacious book that I talked to you guys about last year, he was a writer. His wife was the publisher. So she's doing all the advertisement while he's creating all the books. They work together. If you're in a relationship where one person is the real estate investment broker and the other person is the agent, one person fixes the house up and the other person sells it, right? Y'all can play off of one another like that. They don't try to do the same job. They divide the work based on what they're good at. And a lot of times they can divide the work based on what they're physically capable of performing. Now, a crucial distinction that we have to talk about is passion versus marketable value. Loving to watch movies is a hobby, but analyzing movies to teach lessons about leadership, that could be a YouTube channel or a corporate workshop. Enjoying cooking is a hobby, but creating a system to help busy parents meal prep healthy food for a week on a budget, that is a marketable service. The question isn't just what do we love to do? It is what problem can we solve for someone else with our combined skills? The output here is a document that clearly shows your top combined strengths, your biggest liabilities holding you back, and crucially, at least one clear overlap between both your strengths and a real world problem that you both can get paid to solve together. Now, this balance sheet is your map. Do not skip this part. Now, if you've inventoried your assets, you have raw materials for your economic engine. But raw materials don't pay you the bills. You have to turn them into something people can buy. Your second money move is going to be about taking that overlap of your skills and packaging it into a specific concrete offer. An idea is not a business. A passion is not a business. A business starts the moment your value is packaged into a clear offer for a specific audience that solves a specific problem for a specific price. Without this, you'll spend years stuck in a frustrating loop of we should be doing something together, which usually leads to a whole lot of talk and not much action. You got to work through that resentment that y'all have for one another because we could be doing so many things together, but we don't want to be in the same place as one another because we're resenting the other person for whatever reason. Now, how do you create a packaged offer from the combined efforts of both parties? You start by defining your customer. You cannot help everyone, so you do not want to be the jack of all trades. The fastest way to fail is to create a generic offer for a generic audience. You honestly need to get laser focused. Who specifically are you going to help? Newlyweds trying to merge their finances, busy professional parents who don't have time to plan meals, local small businesses that are clueless about social media, couples who want to start a side hustle but don't know where to start. Pick one, but just pick one to start with. Okay. Me, I help you guys find different ways to make, save, and invest money so that you can stop being broke. I give you guys all the reasonable knowledge and information that you could potentially utilize to help you understand why changes need to be made in your life. Your pain point might just be changing your life for less stress and more financial freedom. I got a broad spectrum podcast that actually covers that pain point from 7 different areas. But you got to, if I was to get more exclusive, I actually cover 7 different pain points in a semi generic scenario, but covering financial improvement as an overall umbrella topic. That's a pain point that 75 or 80% of Americans experience, right? Once you have your who, you define whatever their pain point is. What is the urgent, frustrating problems that they have? Not knowing why life sucks, not knowing why they don't have enough money to get by on day-to-day basis, not knowing what to do about it, not knowing what options they have that they can benefit from, not knowing the changes in their economic society that will negatively impact their ability to continue being successful if they're already successful. These are all pain points that my podcast covers, right? So if you have couples that might fight about money constantly because they have no system, you can have a couple that feel guilty and stressed out about credit card debt. You might have a customer that needs beautiful photos for their product, but can't afford a high end photographer. Your offer has to be the direct solution to whatever that specific pain point really is. That's when you get to structure your offer. You have 3 main options: a service, a product, or a hybrid of both. A service is where you trade time and skills for money. It's the fastest way to generate an income. Think coaching, consulting, design services, photography, financial advisor, life coach, gym trainer. For a couple, this could even be offering event photography duos, packages for weddings. A product is something that you create once and can sell over and over and over again. And a lot of the times, if you're manufacturing something like a stuffed doll or something like that, you might have to create multiple copies of the same thing. But that thing is what you're selling repetitively. This is going to be more upfront work, but scales beautifully. One of the things that you want to do in modern society is you want to think digital templates. You want to think about guides. You want to think about mini courses. You want to think about creating something that can be digitally stored somewhere for little to no money and then downloadables at a cost, unlimited downloadables at a cost, where once you've created this digital product, all you have to do is make sure that the link works for the paying customers to access it. That's a one and done scenario. All the work is front loaded, but the scalability on that is immense. And if you're doing ebooks and everything like that with mini courses and guides and stuff to that effect, you can actually continue to scale on the product where you go from one video to 10. Then you might go from 10 videos to 100. You might take 10 of those videos and theme them together and do a value deal on 10 of the videos where you have each individual video sold at a specific price, but for maybe $2 or $3 off of each video, you're now selling 10 videos for a reduced rate. Or each video might be, say, $10, but if you buy 10 videos, you might get it for $75, where you've saved $25 on buying them in bulk, buying the set. It's a marketing strategy. It's a digital product. Doesn't fucking matter how much they paid for it. But if they're willing to pay $9.99 for it, and you have a 10 video series, and they're willing to pay $74.99 or $75.99 for the series, what matters is that for one download that has the collection in there, you're going to get $75 or $76, right? That is fantastic. That's marketable on Amazon, right? A couple skilled in finance and design could create the newlywed budgeting planner, which is a set of templates to help couples manage their money for the wedding. Typically, weddings, women go all out. Men just write a blank check for them. Having a planner to budget money when you guys are trying to do a wedding on a limited budget makes it easier for the wife to be more realistic, or the wife's mother to be more realistic. Because a lot of the times it's not the girl that's getting married that goes nuts with it. It's the old woman in the family who's enthusiastic about being a part of a second wedding in their life is going to be making this more than what it really is or what it needs to be. Now, a hybrid model is going to combine both of these traits together. So you might offer free YouTube videos that lead to a paid workshop, which then upsells to a high end coaching package. Whatever you choose, a strong offer must answer 5 specific questions all at once. Who is it for? That's the first question. Is it for someone engaged, someone newly married? Who's it for? What problem does it solve? Does it stop them from fighting about money and help them create their first joint financial plan? Then Question number 3, what is the specific results? Is it going to be a shared budget, debt payoff, a clear bank account system? Question number 4, how is it delivered and how long does it take? Is it a single 90-minute virtual strategy lesson? Is it a multi um multi set of 10-minute videos? Is it 9 10-minute videos? And then the last one, what does it cost? Is it a fixed price of $299? Is it a collection of videos for $100? What is it? Look at that example. The 90-minute money marriage, the 90-minute money and marriage starter session. Let's use that as an example. It's going to be crystal clear. The customer knows if it's for them, what they'll get and how long it takes and what it's going to cost. Because it's a 90 minutes, so that's how long it's going to take. Money and marriage starter section. That's what it is, who it's for, right? And then if you say that that's for 299, now you know how much it costs. There's no ambiguity there. Clarity is what gets the customer to say yes. Why is this going to be so crucial for the couple? Well, because it eliminates a massive source of conflict. When your offer is vague, like we help people with money, you'll argue about what to do next. I had that problem when I had a co host because while we talk about this, that, and everything in between, based on the topic of the show, structuralizing it towards something that benefits people is not what we did a lot of the times because my partner would come up and just think about all kinds of stupid stuff off the top. Well, I can't say stupid stuff. It's different things off the top of his head that it was just personal interest. It wasn't tuned to his customer base, right? Well, I want to talk about music because I like music, but how does that benefit the person that's watching, right? If it doesn't benefit the person that's watching, how long are they going to stay there watching it? Whether they're watching for entertainment or if they're watching to learn something, if you're not going to structure it in a way where they benefit from being here, they're not going to stay. Now, when your offer is going to be specific, such as we run a 90-minute starter session for newlyweds for $299, your next steps are going to be very obvious. You know who to market it to. Newlyweds or engaged people that are about to become newlyweds. You know what to say. You know what to charge. You move from abstract debate to concrete actions. You are turning potential energy into kinetic energy. You are no longer just talking about your engine and you're building the transmission that connects this engine to the road. Now, this one step is often the difference between a side hustle that succeeds and one that tears a relationship apart. Now, halfway through, we've just covered how to turn your unique strengths into a marketable offer. This process is the bedrock of everything else. To help you get started on it right away, you will see in the membership a walkthrough called Relationship Balance Sheets. It's going to walk you and your partner step by step through the entire inventory process with prompts to help you uncover your most valuable assets. Okay. It is the perfect tool to bring to your first CEO meeting in your relationship. And for anybody who's in the membership, you can potentially access the links um, directly out of the membership with no extra effort. It's a simple action that you can take today to start building your engine for tomorrow. Now, out of the 5 steps, let's start moving on to step number three. Money moves step number three. If move number one was identifying your assets and move number two was creating your offer, move number three is going to be about building the financial operating system for your life together. Now, this is where the engine metaphor gets very literal. A profitable relationship doesn't just earn money, it organizes the money. Without a system, any new income will just disappear into the chaos, or even worse, create new things to fight about. So, this isn't a reactive budget, it's a structure for clarity and coordination designed to protect your relationship from money stress. Here are the core elements. First, you must schedule regular money meetings. Every relationship needs this. A lot of people call it a budget meeting. That's fine. But let's frame it some kind of way where you guys recognize it. This is your CEO or CFO meeting. You are the the co-CEOs of us.com, us incorporated, right? And this is your weekly or bi-weekly strategy session. It's a non-negotiable appointment on your calendar. So I can't be there to talk to you about X, Y, and Z because my friend is having a baby, or because we have my friend's got a book club, or going to take my friend to the club, or they're having a problem with their relationship and they need somebody to talk to, or whatever the case may be. No, if you would not have clocked out of work for it, you're not walking away from this meeting for it, right? You want to keep the agenda simple, and you want to also keep it looking forward. Forward looking agendas are specifically going to be talking about a small debriefing on what's already been accomplished, celebrating our wins, and then primarily discussing what we need to do next. So if I'd had to say, about 20 to 25% of the meeting is what was already accomplished. Another 20 to 25% of the meeting is what we're in the process of accomplishing now. And then the rest of the 50% of the meeting, the other half of the meeting is, what do we need to do to get to where we want to go? What hasn't been done yet, right? And how close are we to getting that done? Wins in progress. Start with what went well. Did you hit the savings goal? Financial snapshots. A quick no blame review of the income. Any expenses, any upcoming bills, just the data. If we overspent somewhere because we weren't expecting things to go the way they were going, readjust. It's not about you fucked up the money or I fucked up the money. What it's about is, did we allocate too much to discretionary spending this month? Yes or no? Okay. Can we allocate less to discretionary spending next month? That's it. That's it. Now, your goal review. This is going to be important. How are you tracking towards your bigger goals? And then upcoming decisions that need to be made. Discuss any large purchases on a horizon so that you're no longer impulse buying on the discretionary budget, and you are actually saving and planning towards those larger purchases. Business check ins, clearly important. Dedicating time to discuss your shared income projects. Emotional check ins, probably one of the most important ones about this, because you want to end the discussions by asking your partner and telling your partner, how are we feeling about our money right now? How are we feeling about the relationship the way it is right now? because it's rarely just about the numbers. A lot of times there's more to this situation than meets the eye. Second, structure your bank accounts for clarity. One powerful model that creates a ton of clarity is going to be the hybrid system that we talked about the other day. And this isn't about losing control, it's about giving every dollar a specific job. So, with that hybrid model, you want to look at a joint household account. For all shared living expenses, rent, utility, groceries, you both contribute a pre agreed amount to cover the bills, and that simplifies everything. A joint business account aids with the business. So if you're earning money together, it goes into a completely separate account for the business than the personal money, which allows for your LLC to be more of a standalone. Business expenses are paid from your business account, especially when your business generates business profits. This is a non negotiable. Mixing your business and your personal funds is a recipe for a nightmare. It's also a recipe for tax complications, and it is also a recipe for less legal protection because your LLC's limited liability protection only covers the entity when it is separate and apart from your personal life. If it is directly intertwined with your personal life, then your personal life is not shielded under the LLC. Then you want your separate personal accounts. This is going to be that game changer for relationship harmony because each of you gets your own personal account funded with a pre agreed allowance. And this is going to be your guilt free spending money. You can spend it on whatever you want, no questions asked. And this one strategy eliminates a huge percentage of day to day money fights by giving each other a, a level of autonomy. If we agree that each person is going to have $300 a month, while you shouldn't be spending $600 on discretionary spending in a relationship that's not turning you a profit, the fact is, if you agree to that, whatever you spend your $300 on, you spend your $300 on, right? Third, you have to divide your financial roles. This is going to be really important as well. Just like in a business, it's inefficient for both partners to do everything. Decide who will take the lead on what. Who's paying the bills, who's making sure the joint bills are paid on time is clearly important when you're tracking your expenses, who's managing the budget app or whatever spreadsheets that you have, which is going to be documenting your profits and losses. Because when we're doing things and we're operating on autopilot, a lot of times we collect receipts and a lot of times we don't. A lot of times we're looking at the bank statements and watching the money coming in, but not all the time are we documenting it. If you have your profits and losses or P&Ls documented on a regular basis, especially when you're building a business through productivity, you may find that any funding qualifications that you have in the process of your performance is going to ask you for your profits and losses when they're not asking you for your annual tax returns. Because in order for them to loan you money or give you money, you have to show them how much money you are or are not making. Then, who's leading the investments? Who's researching and executing your investment strategy? Because you should be investing while you guys are earning money. And with all of that, you have your tax and compliance. Who's organizing the documents for the IRS? Savings and goals. Who is the cheerleader for your bigger goals? Who's proactively making sure that the trip to Fiji is being funded for? The You want to wake up in a Bugatti? Who's funding for that? If you want a 10-bedroom mansion next to Drake, whatever it is, how close are you to getting to that particular goal? These roles aren't set in stone. You can rotate them between individuals and y'all can alternate. Where I do it on every even month and you do it on every odd month. We just have to check in and say, okay, you're going to watch the money this month. I'm going to watch the money next month, right? But make this invisible labor visible. That is going to be key to preventing one first person from carrying the entire mental load. Because when there is a physical quantity of effort that needs to be done, and then there's a mental quantity of investment that needs to be done to perform that, you may find that a person is psychologically and emotionally burned out, even if the tasks do not require a lot of physical effort. Finally, you're building a business together. Now, you must have a frank conversation about fairness and compensations because if one partner is putting in way more hours, how will that be recognized when you're splitting the money? Define what fair means to both of you before you make your first dollar. And this is going to be highly involved because if you're in a relationship right now where you guys end up turning a hobby into a business, if y'all break up down the line after that business is generating revenue, you are going to want to keep track of who got paid what. And if the business is going to continue operating after y'all break up, you still need to have a clear underlining rollout of how y'all get paid. Because as long as the business generates money, your partner is a 50% founding equitable investor into the company. So they are entitled to revenue. So again, here comes the girlfriend contracts. You have to define what is fair for the both of you. This is one of the most important things that you can do to protect the relationship. Now, with a solid operating system in place, you're ready to add that fuel to the fire. The money move number four is going to be about moving beyond random gigs and building repeatable income systems. A one time freelance project creates an income. Yeah, but a system creates compounding value and predictable cash flow. A system it was turns a hobby into a real business, and that's going to allow you to make money more efficiently over time. So, what does an income system look like? Well, here are a few powerful examples for a couple. The most common is content engine in the technological area. This is perfect if you have expertise to share. It works like this. You create one main piece of content each week, like a YouTube channel. You slice that content into smaller pieces, such as short clips for social media, quote graphics for Instagram, and then in all of that content, you promote a free resource like relationship balance sheets that I mentioned earlier that people get in exchange for their email address. Now, once they're on your email list, you have a direct line to build trust and eventually offer your paid product and your services. This system is a flywheel. Creating content builds your audience because people now know who you are and what you got going on, and they come to look for you some of the time. This is going to drive email signups, which leads to sales. This is going to drive to logins, which leads to sales. Because if they're not looking at you, they're not likely to give you any money, right? Another model is going to be client pipeline systems, going to be ideal for services. You can use the social media or local networking to generate awareness about your product. You offer free consultation, call to diagnose a potential client's problem, whatever that is. And then on the call, you present your paid service package as the solution. After the delivery, you ask for testimonials and referrals, which feeds new clients into your pipeline. Because the more often somebody gives you a positive review, especially a updated, more recent positive review, the more customer confidence recognizes that you are still performing effectively. Now, a third model is the project ladder system. Oh boy, this is going to be perfect for scaling your income. You start with something low cost, entry level products like $27 ebooks. It's an essay. Yeah. Customers who love it are then offered a mid tier product like a $2.99 workshop. Finally, the most engaged customers can be offered a premium service like a $3,000 one-on-one coaching session or a multi-week coaching session. Each step on the ladder qualifies a customer for the next. The key to making any of this work as a couple is to learn your comparative advantages. One of you might be the face of the brand, great on camera, loves talking to people, and the other might be the producer, the one who loves editing, managing the tech, organizing the finances, the one who hates being in front of the customers. You don't both have to do the same things all of the time. Divide the labor based on your natural strengths. To make your system truly repeatable, create simple standard operating procedures, which gives you the guidelines to walk through how to get this done the next time you have to do it. An SOP is just a checklist for reoccurring tasks like how to upload a video or onboard a new client. Might sound tedious, but checklists are instruments of freedom. They reduce guesswork and they eliminate errors, meaning either partner can set up the situation and then the other person step in and get the job done the right way the first time. And this is how you build a real professional grade engine, not just a hobby. The final move determines whether your engine actually builds a life of freedom or just a life with more expensive stuff to do. Money move number five, the last money move, is creating a deliberate plan for what your profits are for. Because without a plan, new money, it just disappears. It gets absorbed by the new lifestyle creep, nicer dinners, fancier cars, or it becomes a new source of conflict. I earned more of this, so I should decide how it gets spent. A plan prevents all of that. It gives every dollar a job aligned with your shared goals. So if y'all wanted to buy a new car, y'all agreed, we're going to do this, we're going to get a new car with the money. As you build up the money for whatever car y'all agreed on, you know that this much money is available for our specific goal. Now, your plan should have a clear order of operations. And the first priority of any new profit should be to strengthen your financial foundation. This means paying down any high interest debt. If you're paying off 22% credit cards, that's going to be like getting a guaranteed 22% return on your money because you're no longer going to be taxed at 22% on any outstanding balances. It's one of the smartest moves that you can make. Building a fully funded emergency fund. That's 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses in a high yield savings account. It's your business and relationship insurance policies because when the business doesn't make enough money to cover the spread, you've got to be able to pull money out and keep the business going. Upgrading your business tools. If you reinvest a portion of your profits, usually 40 to 60%, reinvest it back into the business. You get better software, new cameras, and this makes the engine more efficient. So if I took 40 to 60% of what I got going on off this podcast and buy bigger computers, bigger RAM, bigger drives, more internet connection, better lighting, better cameras, better microphones, I can improve the quality of the podcast. The medium term priority is using profits to buy back your time and optionality. And this could look like a lot of different things. Funding your freedom fund, where enough cash to let one of you quit a job that you hate and go all in on the business that y'all created. Investing in your education, because you can get a certification, you can take a course or hire a coach to level up your skill set, especially if it's a skill set that you're using in the business that you're creating. You can hire help. And this is a huge milestone because if you use your profits to hire a virtual assistant or a bookkeeper or an in-person performance individual, you buy back your time to focus on high value work. You can redirect your time to something else in the business while giving the other person the mediocre day to day tasks. Finally, the long term priority is to build lasting wealth. And this is when your engine starts working for you while you sleep. And this is going to include maximizing retirement accounts because investing in a diversified portfolio of low cost index funds always generates excessive quantities of money over time if you put it there, leave it there, don't mess with it, and keep adding to it. Saving for other major goals like a down payment on a house for or your kids' education, or if you're putting money aside to start up yet another project after you finish automating the first one. Whatever it is that you want to do. If you notice what the plan does, because it forces you to be intentional, it lets you also talk about the non monetary return on your investment. Because a lot of people believe, well, you're spending more money than you're making. Yeah, but I'm accomplishing more than one thing at the same time. Where the value comes from and how much value it is depends on if the money is going to the right things. The real goal isn't just to make more money. I mean, yeah, we can benefit from that, but it's to become more capable, more stable, and more united in a relationship. The true return on investment is going to be peace of mind from being debt free, from being uh, less ignored and receiving more cooperation. It's the confidence of having a 6 month safety net that you don't have to worry about where your bills are coming from. It's the excitement of watching your shared investment portfolios grow. And it's the deep, unshakable trust that you build when you're rowing in the same direction towards future that you both design together. Now, it sounds great, but what about the real world? What if your partner isn't on board? What if you're already drowning in debt? Well, if your partner is hesitant, the worst thing that you can do is storm in there with a spreadsheet and a list of demands. That feels like an attack. So instead, start with a dream. Start with money move number 5 and work your way backwards. Go out for a dinner, take a walk or something like that. Just start talking about what you both want. Ask questions like if more money were here, if there was no limits to the money that we have, what would our life look like in 5 years? The same question that I asked Sterling a few days ago is where do you see yourself in 5 years? Such a generic, broad spectrum answer because he doesn't really know. Most people don't. I know specifically because I cover the topic on my podcast before I asked him that question. But knowing what you want to do and where you want to be at in 5, 10, 15, 20 years is how you're able to determine what you need to do to get there. But just having a stress free life, what's making your life stressed, right? Just saying, I want a peaceful existence, what's got your existence not being peaceful? In order for you to say, live healthy, well, what's causing your health not to be as good as you prefer? You have to address the details. You can ask another question like, what's one thing that you'd love for us to do together that feels impossible to do right now? When you get aligned on the why first, why are we doing this? You're both excited about the destination. introducing this 5 move framework as a how the vehicle that you're going to be using to get there becomes a much easier conversation. Now, if you're starting with a lot of debt, this is this system isn't a luxury. It's going to be a lifeline. The feeling of being overwhelmed comes from chaos, and this framework is going to be the antidote. So if you start with the relationship balance sheet, but focus on the liabilities, get all the numbers out in the open, then use money move number 3 to build your operation system with the primary goal of aiming every spare dollar at your highest interest debt in the beginning of your business isn't a new product. It's a debt destruction machine where you're getting rid of all of the debt that lingers on your relationship. The teamwork that you put into that will allow you to feel as you knock out debts together, and that can be incredibly empowering. Now, we've covered the 5 moves to turn your relationship into an economic engine. We've covered the inventory of your power, creating a clear offer, building your money system, systemizing your income, and reinvesting for a shared vision. At the start, I said most relationships are cash burning machines. Implementing this framework, you're not just stopping the leaks, you are fundamentally re engineering your partnership into a system for creating monetary value. This is about more than just a side hustle, it's a shared mission. It's about building a life where money serves you, not the other way around. It helps you achieve your goals, not become the fundamental cause of conflict. It's about creating a partnership so strong and so aligned that you become a financial fortress together. And the freedom that comes from this process, freedom from money fights, freedom from debt anxiety, freedom from uh, 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 not having the ability to choose your own path. That's the ultimate return on your investment. Your challenge this week, it's going to be simple. It's going to be transformative, though. I want you guys to schedule your first CEO or CFO meeting. Put it on the calendar. Your only agenda item is to have a dream conversation. What kind of life do you want to build together? That single conversation is the spark that starts the entire engine. Because if you don't have something to aim for, why are we doing this? Now, if you got a lot of value from tonight's show, I want you guys to make sure that you hit that subscription button, hit the like button, mash those reaction buttons, turn on the notification buttons. Share this with somebody that you know needs it because you don't want to miss on all of the stuff that we've got coming up, future content. And if you're feeling brave enough, make sure that you dive into the membership and take a look at some of the extra stuff that we've got going on. Now, whew, we ran through a lot of stuff today, and we got a lot more stuff coming up. Make sure that you guys double check. I want to say tomorrow afternoon because I know Monday night show is being posted, and we're going to be double checking and making sure that all the scripts are ready for the rest of the upcoming week. So I want you guys to stay tuned. We've got shows scheduled as far out as September. So like the next few months is up there. We got a lot of shows coming, and I want you guys to be prepared for that. So take time out of your week, readjust your schedule to be sitting somewhere still, listen to the show on some headphones or something like that, and learning different ways to make things better for yourselves. Okay. Now, on my way out, I'm going to start by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I provide you this information to make you guys higher value men, not just by improving your financial life, but also improving your decision making skills because your decision making impacts your financing. Ladies, while this is a male-driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can make yourselves higher value women by focusing on your 20 or 30-year plans, reverse engineering that to what you need to do today, while proactively performing those goals. You keep your eyes and ears open for the potential suitor that has the right personality, characteristics, drive, ambition, dedication, motivation, and integrity to accomplish their own goals. And then determine how their goals mesh with your goals, because y'all don't have to have the exact same goals. They just have to be heading in the same direction. If you both have long-term satisfaction gain goals and not short-term gratification goals, you can find yourselves achieving more. Where, as I tell you guys on a regular basis, two people can make it to $1 million faster than one. Now, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. And a special shout out to Steven, Mr. Satellite, Michael, OG Kicks. I really appreciate you guys for coming to this and that tonight. We had a lot of fun with a lot of information. And we're not trying to do another 9-hour run. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. you.